Thank you, Ceann Comhairle, and thank you, Minister, for coming in. But, Minister, we're in the midst of a catastrophic crisis in childcare disability services, and the lack of early intervention is detrimental to our children and will result in teenagers and young adults with extreme complex medical issues and needs due to the current neglect by this government and its department in continuing staffing issues. Now, Minister, although it's not Minister Donnelly that's here, Minister Donnelly did meet this mother, Susan Dixon. She recently met him, and she tells me what she tells me in an email is also CC'd to Minister Donnelly. And Ceann Comhairle, I have to read it into the record. And I'm quoting from the email directly received. My son has an extremely rare form of Bethlem myopathy muscular dystrophy, a completely unique variation. It's a progressive muscle wasting disease with no cure and no treatment. Therapies are essential to maintain his mobility and his independence. He has attended HSE services since he was 6 weeks old. He then moved to Enable Ireland services when he was 3. He needs a multidisciplinary team of physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy. While we completely understand that COVID halted some of these therapies, my son's condition did not go away when COVID arrived. The issues I'm about to outline are not COVID related. They are staffing, management and funding related. Over the past 2 years, my son's condition has progressed to the point of where he depends on a wheelchair to attend school and manage any distance. We accepted a temporary wheelchair in April 21 with the promise of his own chair correctly fitted and appropriate for his personal physical circumstances. We had a seating assessment in January 2022, and at this appointment we were informed about the extremely long wait for funding from the HSE. I explained at the time the urgency of this chair, as my son is no longer able to self-propel in his chair. It's too heavy. The chair itself was second or third hand by the time it got to us and is in a shocking state. The brakes don't work, the handles used to push him are broken and taped into position, and the wheel rims are so worn that when he does try to self-propel, he gets metal splinters and cuts his own hands. It is a health and safety risk, and it's not fit for purpose. My son needs his wheelchair. It's that simple. I need someone to make a phone call, write a letter, or send an email. Anything to help my son regain his independence. I can't afford to replace it, but I wish I could. We were then informed, when I pushed for answers, that the paperwork was left on a desk for 9 weeks before it was finally sent to the HSE for funding approval. Due to staffing issues, and my son's independence is gone. He's 9 years old and might as well be in a buggy. He has to be pushed around every day, everywhere he goes. He cannot be left unattended in the chair, as the brakes don't work, and if he rolls, he hasn't got the strength to stop himself. I feel my son is just one of thousands of children that have been forgotten about and pushed aside. He had a neck injury in August 2021 and was in a neck brace for 10 weeks. His consultant requested he attend intensive physio for 10 weeks, 2 sessions per week. He got 6. Now, Ceann Comhairle, I can't finish it, but it is even worse, and I'm going to run out of time. And what I want to ask the Minister, as part of the department, you're fully aware of the shambolic. Every week we get letters telling us that we're following the HSE recruitment process, but we don't have the staff. For 2 years you haven't had the staff. I'm reliably informed we don't even have enough graduates coming out of college this year to take up the slack. When is it going to improve? And who is going to get a wheelchair for Leo Dixon? Please, Minister.
Minister.
I want to thank you, Deputy, for raising this important matter for discussion, and on behalf of my colleague, Minister Rabbitte, to restate this government's commitment to children and young people with disabilities as well as their families. You talked about Leo Dixon and the fact that a letter says 9 weeks on a desk is simply unacceptable. And, you know, you were involved in the private sector, you ran your own haulage company, would that be right? For a letter be 9 weeks is simply very difficult to stand over, and it certainly is not the way that a department, and certainly not the way that a service should be ran, apart from all the other issues, as you rightly outlined, by the wheelchair and various things like that. May I say from the outset, Minister Rabbitte accepts that the HSE has faced considerable challenges in parts of the country in the implementation of the Progressing Disability Services programme, and this has resulted in delays for families to access much-needed therapies for their children. Historically, children's disability services have been provided by a range of statutory and non-statutory service providers, and the type and level of service provided varied widely across the country. The PDS model seeks to address the previous unacceptable inequity in service provision, where there may have been an excellent service for some children and little or no service for others. As Minister Rabbitte has said previously in this House, the reconfiguration of children's disability network teams across the country has been challenging, particularly with regards to staffing. To illustrate these challenges, the HSE recently undertook a National Children's Disability Network team staff census, which highlighted that the CHOs are on average operating with a 28% vacancy rate. The unfortunate reality is that there are recruitment challenges due to significant availability of new posts across the health and social care sector, both public and private. And these staffing issues have resulted in delays for families to access much-needed therapies for their children. Delays which has caused untold stress and justifiable anger on the part of these families. The anger is understandable, and once again, on behalf of Minister Rabbitte, I wish to put on record the Government's sincerest apologies to any family experiencing such delays. And such delays, as I said, are simply unacceptable and need to be overcome to ensure delivery. In this regard, Minister Rabbitte is currently engaging in a series of meetings with the heads of disability services across the 9 CHOs to hear what is happening on the ground in their respective areas. It is expected that these discussions will provide Minister Rabbitte with further detail on the challenges being encountered, and it is hoped will generate potential solutions. Deputy, you are also aware of the recent High Court judgment on the assessment of needs process. Minister Rabbitte is attending a day-long workshop tomorrow with the aim of developing new interim guidelines to support assessment of needs process and guide frontline staff. This workshop will be attended by key stakeholders, including senior HSE officials, Department of Health officials and representatives of professional bodies. And most importantly, children and young people will also be represented in the form of parents' representatives. And in the interim, the use of standard operating procedures as part of the assessment of need process has ceased, and practitioners will use their clinical judgment in relation to ongoing assessments. As we begin this process, we need to reaffirm that the assessment of need is only the first stage of a journey towards vital therapy supports. Minister Rabbitte remains committed to ensuring that the journey is made easier for families across the country.
Mr. Deputy Murphy.
Thank you. Minister, as I didn't expect anything else, not saying that I don't doubt your bona fides, but I can tell you something, the answer is always the same. If the answer is always just another network, and then it's a staffing issue. But we never seem to get to grips with the staffing issue, whereby we outsource it, or we consider critical skills permits, which I've been saying on the floor now repetitively. Count Corley, even you must be sick listening to me. But an apology just doesn't cut it, Minister. But I do, as I say, I don't doubt your bona fide, but the apology won't buy the wheelchair. It won't provide the wheelchair. And by next Wednesday, I'm taking little Leo Dixon up here to the Dáil because he wants to sit in your seat. He wants to sit in Minister Donnelly's seat. He's from his constituency, Arklow, County Wicklow. And while he's sitting in your seat, I very much hope that you'll sit in his, a wheelchair not fit for purpose for the 8 hours a day that he sits in it. And then see how quick he'll get his wheelchair. Isn't it a disgrace, Count Corla, that we have an 8-year-old boy had surgery on his neck that has to be redone because he didn't get the physio he was entitled to and because they haven't provided a wheelchair that he should have had to assist him. What is wrong in this country that we have this level of, it's a total lack of services. It is beyond reproach at this stage. I spoke to families who held a rally. They were outside All Éireann here last week. I met them in Wexford. They held a rally in Enniscorthy. There was 30-odd families with placards that the HSE is letting their children down. Lots of different placards, but not one positive, I can assure you. And the reality is, much of it is to do with the new CDNT, but this child is suffering for 9 years. And he's going to be here next Wednesday, and you can tell him yourself, because in your 2 minutes I'd ask you to tell me, when is he getting his wheelchair? That's the question. Thank you, Count Corner.
Thank you, Deputy Murphy.
Thank you, Deputy Murphy, and I want to thank you for articulating this very, very difficult issue. And as stated, progressing children's disability service is the policy underpinning children's disability services. All 91 CDNT teams are now established, and while I know they are challenged with recruitment and retention issues, they are in place, and Minister Rabbitte is continuing to engage with the HSE to fill the vacant posts and to progress the service provision. This has never been a question of a lack of financial commitment, and the Government has provided significant funding to the HSE for new posts in recent years. And since 2019, almost 500 additional whole-time equivalent posts for children's disability services has been allocated. However, for various reasons, filling these posts has proven to be incredibly challenging, and I know the various CHOs have prioritised filling these posts as a matter of great urgency. And in addition, Minister Rabbitte has begun discussions with our colleague Minister for Higher Education and Skills, Simon Harris, around improving the disability workforce supply in the longer term. I will bring your comments back to the Minister, and also the fact that, that this young man is coming to Leinster House next Wednesday for the Minister. And you talked about a new wheelchair. I will raise this within the department in the morning as quickly as possible and see is there anything can be done. Finally, on behalf of the Minister, I want to restate her commitment as Minister of Disabilities to strive for the best service possible for children with disabilities and their families. And on this occasion, this service has not been the best service and has not strived to provide the best service. And I will bring those that issue and bring those concerns back to the Minister. Thank you.
I don't think anyone can question the commitment of Minister Fianna or Minister Rabbitte to this, and I know you're not doing that, I know that, but I think what you've said is heart-rending, and I would say that you should engage with Minister Fianna and Minister Rabbitte, and I would invite you to table this issue for consideration in the next few weeks so that we can see what advance has been achieved.
A young boy, 9 years old, in an uncomfortable position, but he wants to come himself. Yeah. So I'd hope we'd have it resolved by then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that